Who? Hello. Hey, Forrest, would you be willing to read us some scripture to start us off this morning? Numbers 10:10.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Numbers 10:10. Yes, Numbers 10:10. And hey, any shofar blowers up here? Hey, Erica, can you grab that for me? I'm gonna go and get this off the stage. Praise ya. I'm not there yet.
You got Numbers 10:10.
Oh no, he knows about heart.
Oh, you know about heart.
It's in his heart.
And also in the days of your gladness, and in your feast days, and in the beginning of your months, you shall blow the trumpets over your burnt offerings and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings. And this shall be to you as a memorial before your Elohim. I am Yahweh Eloheka.
Okay, so we're going to start off with a song, Psalm 3. However, before we do that, I want to read Psalm 30. I felt led to just read Psalm 30 before the congregation, and we'll worship together. No. Okay, Psalm 30. I will extol you, O Yahweh, for you have lifted me up and have not made my foes to rejoice over me. O Yahweh Elohai, I cried unto you, and you have healed me. O Yahweh, you have brought up my soul from Sheol. You have kept me alive, that I should not go down to the pit. Sing unto Yahweh, O ye his saints, and give thanks at the remembrance of his holiness. For his anger endures for but a moment. In his favor is life. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And in my prosperity I said, I shall never be moved. Yahweh, by your favor you have made my mountain to stand strong. You did hide your face, and I was troubled. I cried to you, O Adonai, and unto Adonai I made my supplication. What profit is there in my blood when I go down to the pit? Shall the dust praise you? Shall it declare your truth? Hear, O Yahweh, and have mercy upon me. Yahweh, be my helper. You have turned for me my mourning into dancing. You have put off my sackcloth and girded me with gladness, to the end that my glory may sing praise unto you and not be silent. O Yahweh Elohai, I will give thanks unto you forever. Hallelujah. So we're going to sing Psalm 3 now. If we can, Madeline, Cooper, thank you so much. Hallelujah. Appreciate the extra instruments, but maybe later. All right, Psalm 3. Hey, listen, this is an important song to me. Some of our trials are private. Some of our trials are very public, right? And so a lot of the trials I went through are very public over the last few years. And this song, I just praise Yah that Yah gave Lyndon and Ruth this song. It's been a joy to me in my heart in drawing near to my Elohim. And so I feel blessed to be alive here and to be able to give our best attempt at worshiping Yahweh with you all together. And again, remember, even if you don't think you can sing well, just try to follow along, because that's the way we can be of one mind and one accord, saying the same thing together. Is it on? O Yahweh, how my adversaries have increased. Many rise up against me, many saying of me, there is no deliverance for him. In Elohim, Selah. But you, O Yahuwah, are a shield for me. You're my esteem. You're the one who lifts my head up, and I cry to Yah with my voice, oh Yah. 'Cause he has heard me from his Kodesh mountain. Selah. I lay down and slept, and I awoke, for Yahuwah sustained me. Oh, and I'm not afraid. 10,000s of people who have turned themselves against me all around. 'Cause you, O Yahuwah, are a shield for me. You're my esteem. You're the one who lifts my head up, and I cry to Yah with my voice, oh Yah. 'Cause he has heard me from his Kodesh mountain. Selah, 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 Selah. Arise, O Yahuwah, and save me, O my Elohim. You have smitten all my enemies. Arise, O Yahuwah, and save me, O my Elohim. You have broken the wicked's teeth. Deliverance belongs to Yah, and your blessing is on your people. Selah, 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 Selah. Oh, you, O Yahuwah, are a shield for me. You're my esteem. You're the one who lifts my head up, and I cry to Yah with my voice, oh Yah. 'Cause he has heard me from his Kodesh mountain. Selah. Praise Yah. I forgot we did decide 2 songs up front. That was my mistake.
As the scriptures say, don't put your light under a bushel, but Set it out there before men so that people can see your works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. City on a hill can't be hid. And so in the same way, you need to live your life as an example, not just the words you speak, but the things you do.
Look at the seed, at the promise says to be, at all that it takes to turn into a tree. We live in the days that prophets long to see. Will we rise above or waste the opportunity? Buried in the earth, watered constantly. Will it survive the storm or wither in the freeze? We praise you in the storm, and we thank you for the warmth that you brought upon our hearts. Let your spirit not depart. All that we've gained, all that we've lost, all of the pain and all of the cost, to bear up our cross, to bear up our cross. Bear up our cross, oh. Let our light shine brightly for you, walking in spirit, walking in truth. Let our light shine brightly for you, walking in spirit, walking in truth. Let our light shine brightly for you, walking in spirit, walking in truth. Let our light shine brightly for you, walking in spirit, walking in truth. Buried in the earth, watered constantly. Will it survive the storm or wither in the freeze? We praise you in the storm, and we thank you for the warmth that you brought upon our hearts. Let your spirit not depart. All that we've gained, all that we've lost, all of the pain and all of the cost, to bear up our cross, to bear up our cross, oh, to bear up our cross, oh. Let our light shine brightly for you, walking in spirit, walking in truth. Let our light shine brightly for you, walking in spirit, walking in truth. We ask you to move, we ask you to move.
Praise Yah.
Praise Yah. Okay, now we'll leave.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Jake. And this is the first time that I have been up here in a teaching fashion. I remember back when I was in high school, I promised myself I would never be a preacher. See, the backstory of that is I grew up as a missionary kid in the Philippines. So I lived there most of my childhood, and I saw all the different flavors and blends of Christianity growing up. I saw the hypocrisy face to face. I saw the issues that the cream of the crop of the Christian church have to deal with behind closed doors. And at the time, my heart had turned away from our Father in heaven. And a funny story that in hindsight I saw came true is when I was in high school, you know, they would have those big kind of senior night speeches where everybody would go up on stage and talk about, hey, I'm going to graduate from Harvard, and I'm going to be a doctor or an engineer, and I thought the whole thing was silly. And so when my turn came, I got up on stage, and I went up to the mic, and I said, my goal for my future is I'm going to join a garage band and win the lottery. So, of course, it killed. Everybody laughed. And, in hindsight, I ended up joining that garage band, right? Me and Adam, we got our little music thing going. So I have my garage band. And you know what? That other thing, guess what? It came true. You know what? I won the lottery. I married my wife. So, yes. So, little moment there. And after coming back to the States from the Philippines, I entered into college. And after going buck wild in college, I had a time where I had kind of a dark night of the soul moment. I ended up in a mental hospital after attempting to commit sewer slide, if you know what I mean. And it was in that place that I first committed my life to not just the faith of my parents, but it became my faith. It became that time that I recognized that, there's a lot more to the things I'd been raised on than I'd recognized. But keep in mind, if I say something crazy today, I was born again in a mental hospital, so the leadership team did invite me up here, so you'll have to take it up with them if I say anything crazy, you know what I mean? But in a place for, insane people, I became the most sane I'd ever been in my entire life. I recognized that it is our pursuit of our Father in heaven and his desire for our life that actually opens up your purpose, your calling. All of that starts with recognizing those truths. So today, listen, I was really struggling on what to talk about. There was several pressing topics. I thought to myself, I don't want to give a message of peace and safety when I feel like the world's falling down around us, right? Part of me wanted to talk about Elon Musk's ability to catch fire from heaven with his rocket program, and the fact that Donald Trump's wall is gonna be very hard to get out of this country now that it's really hard to get into this country. All of these things, I was like, oh man, these are really pressing topics. I wonder if I should talk about them. Also, recently here in this ministry, there's been some discussions regarding the topic of music and the role of worship, and so that was really on my mind. I was like, man, I kind of want to talk about that too. I don't know, but as our Father in heaven does, sometimes he prefers the things we least expect. So today I wanted to talk about some elements of biblical culture, some elements of restoring the ancient path, and how this leads to the building blocks of the body of Messiah, right? And so we are going to rapid fire, and I'm not kidding, rapid fire through a lot of verses. And I want you guys to be prepared, because we're going to be bumping through a whole lot of concepts here, but in the end, you'll see what I'm going to try to weave together. So if you do have questions after we get through this, I have my notes. You can take pictures of the verses we have covered if you do miss any, and we're going to have some spitfires up on the TV trying to show the verses so that you can follow along as we go. So, oh man, I was going to read my title. I've totally forgot what I entitled this message. He already took it off the screen. All right, so seeking the treasure, ancient culture. What is valuable about restoring the ancient path? This fellowship is called Ancient Path Revivals, right? And so that's kind of what was on my heart. And so here's where we're going to start. We're going to start with some information in the scriptures, in the Torah, starting with some interesting information we get regarding ages of responsibility. And we're going to start there. So Let's go ahead and start with the age of accountability, and we're going to flip over to Numbers chapter 1. All right. Numbers chapter 1, verse 3 starts us off with our premise here. From 20 years old and upward, all that are able to go forth to war in Yasharel, you and Aharon shall number them by their armies. Okay, very interesting. The age of 20 is the age of warriors. It's the age of manhood in a lot of ways. And we're going to find, going through these next couple verses, it's the age of accountability. Let's flip over to Numbers chapter 14. Verse 29 further backs up this concept. Numbers chapter 14, verse 29. We'll start in 28. Say unto them, as truly as I live, says Yahuwah, as ye have spoken in my ears, so will I do to you. Your carcasses shall fall in this wilderness, and all that were numbered of you, according to your whole number, from 20 years old and upwards, which have murmured against me. So we have more of an explicit explanation that the age of 20 is the age of accountability, because those are the ones who were older than 20 that had to die in the wilderness for their grumbling. Let's flip-flop over here to Exodus chapter 30, verse 14. All right, some more information here. Everyone that passes among them that are numbered from 20 years old and above shall give an offering unto Yahuwah. So not only the age of warriors, not only the age of accountability, it's also the age of beginning to give your offering. Let's flip over here to 2 Chronicles chapter 25, 5 now. You're going to get it faster than I did. All right. And it says, and Amaziah gathered Yehuda and appointed over them commanders of thousands, commanders of hundreds, according to the fathers' houses, for all Yehuda and Benjamin. And he registered them from 20 years old and above, and found them to be 300,000 choice men going out to the army, handling spear and shield. So this is a concept of the age of 20 that carries on further into the development of the nation of Israel. All right, so here we have a foundation. Age 20, basic concepts, right? Let's move on here. Let's go to age 25 and flip over to Numbers chapter 8. All right, here in Numbers chapter 8, it says this, and after that went the Leviim in to do their service in the tabernacle of the assembly before Aharon and before his sons, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe concerning the Leviim, so did they unto him. And Yahuwah spoke unto Moshe, saying, this is that belongs unto the Leviim. From 25 years old and upwards, they shall go in to wait upon the service of the tabernacle of the assembly. Oh, very interesting. So here's another age we get in the scriptures, that the age of 25 is the age of going in to do their service in the tabernacle and the assembly. Very interesting. All right, so let's move on to another significant age, the age of maturity and public service. Let's flip-flop here over to Numbers chapter 4, verse 3. And it says, we're starting verse 2, lift up the heads of the sons of Kohath from among the sons of Levi after their families by the house of their fathers, from 30 years old and upward, even until 50 years old, all that enter into the host to do the work in the tabernacle of the assembly. Okay, very interesting. So we have a kind of a span of time that's mentioned here, the age from 30 to 50. Let's further back up the role of the age of 30 in regards to maturity in public service. Please flip with me to Genesis 41, verse 46. And what does it say here? Genesis 41, 46. Here we go. And Joseph, you guys remember Joseph, right? Joseph. He was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim. And Joseph went out from presence of Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Mitzrayim. So we find out here that Joseph began his authority position over the land of Egypt at the age of 30. Let's flip over here to 2 Samuel chapter 5, verse 4 now. And here we have some information about another Messiah-like archetype, King David. It says that, we'll start in verse 3. So all the elders of Yasharel came to the king of Hebron, and King David cut a covenant with them in Hebron before Yahuwah. And they anointed King David king over Yasharel. David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years. Oh, okay, all right. So we have these two archetypes of the Messiah, Messiah ben Joseph, many Messiah-like parallels there, and Messiah ben David, both of them beginning their roles. Did you see that airplane fly out of my book? What in the world? Messiah ben David and Messiah ben Joseph both began at age 30. Now let's look here and look up Luke chapter 3. All right, Luke chapter 3, verses 23. And we see both of those Messiah-like figures, Joseph and David, are then, of course, the pattern continues in the Messiah, Yahushua. And this is in verse 23. And it says, what? And Yahushua himself began to be about 30 years of age, being as was supposed the son of Joseph, which was the son of Eli. So we see here this pattern. Joseph, David, Yahusha, 30. All right, so now we've covered this age of 30 and this role of stepping into public service and ministry and maturity at the age of 30. Let's move on to the age of 50. Let's flip back to Numbers 8, chapter 24 through 26. All right, and it says this. This is it that belongs unto the Leviim from 25 years old and upward. They shall go and wait upon the service of the tabernacle of the assembly. And from the age of 50 years, they shall cease waiting upon the service thereof and shall serve no more. So it's the age of retirement. But how does that role continue? I mean, 50-year-olds aren't in the grave yet. Come on, you guys got a lot to do. It says this. It says, but shall minister with their brethren in the tabernacle of the assembly to guard the watch, and shall do no service. Thus shall you do unto the Leviim, touching their charge. So here's the interesting rabbit trail that this is bringing me on, and we're going to get into some other documents that kind of back up like these ages of the assembly and how it fits into the roles of leaders and elders and the differences between the two. And but first, I wanted to share with you my theory. This is thus thinks Jake. I've loved that phrase from Rob over the years, thus thinks Jake. But to me, it represents the necessity of a community to build towards discipleship and equipping the next generation. Why is this? Why do we have these significant ages mentioned in the scriptures that reveal something to us about even structure for the body of Yah today, right? Well, it has to do, I think, with the passing of the torch of responsibility. It has to do with equipping the next generation. And so what you have is men at age 20, they begin becoming men. After they've gained a little bit of wisdom, age 25, you've had enough time to come and start helping. Bring your skills and your talents and start to assist the tabernacle, right, as the Leviim. At age 30, men would enter into this span of time between the age of 30 and the age of 50. That was the age of responsibility and the age of leadership, right? And so then, After the age of vigor and youthful, strength, right, comes to the close at age 50, you have those age out of this position of leadership into a position of eldership. And why is that? Because we need a multitude of wise counselors. We need a multitude of men who have been through the experience of both youthful, training and then leadership, and now they can then give wise counsel to the next generation. No wonder we have so much problems in American politics today. Think about the congressmen that are way up in their 70s and 80s clutching onto power, No wonder we have such a rotten system, because these men never passed the torch. They never trained and prepared the next batch. And so what happens is this chain link effect where these older generation types that are clutching onto their power have not trained the next generation, and that next generation becomes embittered because they never got their chance to lead the charge. And because of that embitterment, they're not training the next generation to even be prepared to be leaders. And so you can see this ripple effect that happens when we don't have biblical order. All right, so we talked about the ages. We're going to come back to that because it was kind of the core light that was helping my investigation. But let's talk about now some of the responsibilities of a community to put priority of the culture above warfare. And what this does is it reveals to us some of the things that I think our Father in heaven views like really valuable. Like this is the meat of life. So let's go ahead and start by hopping over to Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 5. All right, what does it say? And the officers shall speak unto the people, saying, What man is there that has built a new house and has not dedicated it? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in battle, and another man dedicate it. All right, very interesting. So a priority here is set up that before you go and risk your life, before you go into warfare, to live this life, you need to build your house, right? So what's the priority? To go and die for your brothers on the battlefield, or to start with the very things that make dying on the battlefield worth it? Start building your house, right? Here's some other priorities we get. Let's flip over to, we're already here. Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 6 talks about what is the next priority. What man of it has planted a vineyard and has not eaten of it? Let him also go and return unto his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man eat of it. So another priority is to go and tend to your garden, to get to partake of the fruit of your labors before you go and die. Because, man, if you go all the way back to the garden, right, what did he intend mankind to be? We were to be the gardeners of creation, tend his garden, right? So that's a very important concept. And finally, another very, very important concept. Let's look at Deuteronomy chapter 7, or chapter 20, verse 7, and it says, And what man is there that has not betrothed a woman, and has not taken her? Let him go and return unto his house, lest he die in battle, and another man take her. So very, very interesting, right? We have these three main things that are priorities for the children of Israel, their culture, which you need to take care of these before you go and lay your life down, because these things are the focus of kind of what this experience on life is in a lot of ways. There's a lot of lessons to learn through, being a married man, building a house, and growing a garden. And then, of course, tacked on to the end of this is the Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 8 verse, which is kind of like the bad thing, right? And the officers shall speak further unto the people, and they shall say, What man is there that is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go and return unto his house, lest his brethren's heart fail as well as his heart. Why is this a sandwich at the back end of these three priorities that you need to have in line? Well, because, if you're on the battlefield and you've not taken care of the things at home, or you have the girl you're afraid somebody's going to steal, your heart's going to tremble and quake in the face of death. And you're not going to be prepared to stand toe-to-toe with your brother, shoulder to shoulder, and go and fight the enemy, because your mind's on your problems you got to deal with first, right? And so I think there's a reason that the template is set up this way. And just because I love the culture, and this is a treasure that I hope you guys will see, the culture of why it's so important to, go and marry a woman. And let's flip over to Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 5. And this is further echoed. And it says, when a man has taken a new woman, he shall not go out to war, neither shall be charged with any business. But he shall be free at home 1 year, and shall cheer up his woman which he has taken. Can you imagine if we implemented that culture in today's world, how powerful and strong our marriages would be? How deeply in love we'd be with our women? I mean, the culture of relationship is, something that is extremely cheapened in the world today. And it sets us up for these weak foundations going forward as we build a biblical culture, because sometimes we listen to the way of Babylon. We listen to the way of the world in terms of get your girlfriend, and your whole deal is to get your girlfriend and steal her away from her father, and it's to cut respect and authority off at the knees. And then we're so surprised that when we have stolen our girlfriend away from her family, later on, we've set a foundation for cheating and all kinds of stuff, because we've implanted that in the courtship process, in the dating process. And so, these are all lessons from the treasures of the ancients. Can you see the value that they would have today? Like, what if you got married and you had a whole year off just to spend with your wife figuring things out? Because I know that would have helped a lot of us, including myself, out tremendously. All right, so why do we look at these ancient tenets? Why do we look at some of these concepts of structure and leadership and eldership and the purpose of, coming into these ages of maturity? Let's flip over to James chapter 1. All right, James chapter 1, verse 22. But be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. For if any is a hearer of the word, but not a doer, he is like a man beholding his natural face in a glass. For he beholds himself and goes his way, and straightway forgets what manner of man he was. Why do we look into the ancient truths? Why do we seek out the ancient past? Why do we look at how they did things? Because we can see the reflection of how we're messing up today, right? And so I want to flip over to a apocryphal text, the book of Enoch. We're going to look at Enoch chapter 1. I want to talk about why it is so important for us to look at the reflection of his word and come away with it changed people, come away with it righteous people. All right, Enoch chapter 1. I love Enoch. I spent like 6 months working on an audio production of it, so I got to read through it quite a few times. And the reason I made that project is because these first few verses that I felt were very important for today, for our generation. And it says, starting in verse 1, the words of the blessed of sorry, I'm already messing up. The words of the blessing of Hanok. How he blessed the elect and righteous who were to exist in the time of trouble, rejecting all the unrighteous and wicked. Hanok, a righteous man, who with Elohim answered and spoke, while his eyes were opened, and he saw a holy vision in the heavens. This the angels showed me. From them I heard all things and understood what I saw, that which will not take place in this generation, but in a generation which is to succeed at a distant period, on account of the elect. Upon their account I spoke and conversed with him. Who will go forth from his habitation, the holy and mighty one, the Elohim of the world? Who will hereafter tread upon Mount Sinai, appear with his host, and be manifested in the strength of his power from heaven? All shall be afraid, and the watchers be terrified. Great fear and trembling shall seize them, even to the ends of the earth. The lofty mountains shall be troubled, and the exalted hills depressed. melting like a honeycomb in the flame. The earth shall be immerged, and all things which are in it perish, while judgment shall come upon all, even upon all the righteous. And this is why we want to look in that mirror, right? But to them shall he give peace. He shall guard the elect, and towards them exercise clemency or mercy. Then shall all belong to Yahuwah, be happy and blessed, and the splendor of Yahuwah shall illuminate them. So we have this message to the later generations that the prophet Enoch left behind. He's like, look, it's going to be a crazy, wild ride, but he will stand up for the elect, and he will stand up for the righteous. So now we're going to talk about seeking the ancient path and looking for the way of truth. Let's flip over to Jeremiah 6:16. Jeremiah 16 says, "Thus says Yahuwah, stand ye in the ways, and see, and ask for the ancient paths. Where is the good way? And walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls." But they said, "We will not walk therein." Let's flip over here to Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 7. Here's another message from our Father in heaven. "Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask your father, and he will show you. Your elders, and they will tell you." Now let's hop over here to Job chapter 8. Job chapter 8, verses 8 through 10. You found it way faster than I did. "Indeed, please ask the former generation and prepare for the research of their fathers. For we are but of yesterday and know not, because our days on earth are as a shadow." You know, Solomon referred to us as a fading flower in a way. "Do they not teach you, speak to you, and bring forth words from their heart?" All right. And finally, let's hop over to Isaiah chapter 58. Isaiah 58, verses 12 through 14. "And they that shall be of you shall build the old waste places. You shall raise up the foundations of many generations, and you shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in." What path is it talking about? The ancient path. And so now I'm going to read a portion from a compilation of texts from the Dead Sea Scroll community. These are found in the caves. Now, the whole book I can't advocate for. I've not studied everything out in it. But there are some interesting words in the portions that I want to share with you that actually led to a really interesting rabbit trail. And so I just wanted to give that caveat. But before we read these passages, I read these passages from some of the Dead Sea Scrolls, I want to read James chapter 3. So let's hop on over to James chapter 3. And this is a preface before we get into this topic of leadership and eldership and all this. So James chapter 3 says this, "My brethren, be not many masters, knowing," or some have interpreted teachers, "knowing that we shall receive the greater condemnation. For in many things we offend all. If any man offends not in word, the same is a perfect man, and also able to bridle the whole body. Behold, we put bits in the horse's mouth, and that they may obey us, and we turn about the whole body. Behold also the ships, which though they be so great, and are driven fierce winds, yet they are turned about by a very small helm, whithersoever the governor wills. Even so, the tongue is a little member that boasts great things. Behold, how great a matter a fire kindles. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defiles the whole body, and sets on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire of Gehinnom. For every kind of beast and of things and of serpents and all the things in the sea is tamed and has been tamed of mankind. But the tongue can no man tame. It is unruly, evil, full of deadly poison. Therefore, bless we Elohim, even the Father, and therewith curse we men, which are made after the similitude of Elohim. Out of the same mouth proceeds blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not be so. Does a fountain send forth out of the same place sweet water and bitter? Can the fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries, either a vine or figs? So can no fountain both yield salt water and fresh. Who is wise man and endowed with knowledge among you? Let him show out of a good conversation his works with meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not, and lie not against the truth. The wisdom descends not from above, but is earthly, sensual, and devilish. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, easy, to be entreated, full of mercy, good fruits, without partiality, and without hypocrisy. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace of them that make peace. So what is this preface all about? If we're going to have leaders among us, if we're going to speak, first of all, they're under much greater condemnation, because somebody who teaches the words of righteousness is responsible for those that they teach it to. And that is a tremendous responsibility. Something, we can be equipped for. And that's why we need the wisdom of the older generation. We need them to equip the leaders of this generation so that we can disciple the upcoming generation, so that they're not coming up on stage just trying to say stuff that sounds smart. That's the problem with the Christian church today. You have people going to school just to sound smart when they talk about the Bible, but they don't realize their wagging tongue is steering the ship to destruction. So, I'm going to read just two little inserts from the Dead Sea Scrolls here that I find very profound, and then I have one last I'm going to finish off with. And they have some really interesting phraseology in these documents. And so I'm going to start with chapter 513 of the Dead Sea Scrolls manuscripts, and apparently this is fragment 4 found in the 4th cave in Qumran. And it starts with saying this: Midrash for the instructor concerning the men of the law who freely volunteer to revert from all evil and keep themselves steadfast in all. He commanded they should keep apart from the congregation of men in injustice, in order to constitute a community in law and possessions, and acquiesce to the authority of the many in every affair involving the law. So, just to explain what we're reading here, men of authority, men of position, men of teaching have to be subject to a greater whole. It's not just getting up here and talking about what I think or my personal interpretation, because the scripture is not a personal interpretation. That's why in the multitude of counselors there is safety, right? And it continues and says, they must exercise humility, justice, and right, compassionate, love, and seemly behavior in all their paths. No one should walk in the stubbornness of his heart in order to go astray, but one should establish a fountain of truth for Israel, for the community, for all, who freely volunteer for holiness in Aharon, and for the house of truth in Israel, and for those who join them for the community, and whoever enters the council of the community, because that's the safeguard, the council. Whoever enters into the council of community shall make a binding promise to revert to the law of Moses with whole heart and whole soul, all that has been revealed from the law, in accordance with the counsel of the men of the community, and to be segregated from all the men of injustice. And they are not to approach the pure food of the holy men. He shall not eat. So he gets into some of the community guidelines there. But the concept being very clear and plain, that there's a counsel of wisdom. And that, like the scriptures warn us, that if they don't speak according to the Torah, there's no light in them. And I don't have the verse reference, but it's definitely in there. It was, it's written somewhere. And so let me read one more text from the Dead Sea cave fragments. And this is verse 321, I think, of book 2, covering fragments 4 through 6. I believe it's in the cave 4. They found this. The interpretation of the word concerns the edicts of Babylon, the edicts of the peoples, to betray Israel. And it's fragmented, so bear with me. And what it says, the remainder of the trees of the wood will be a small number, and a young man will count them. Its interpretation concerns the reduction of men. On that day, it will happen that the remainder of the house of Israel and the survivors of the house of Jacob will cease to lay on their assailant, but will lean loyally on Yahuwah, the Holy One of Israel. A remnant will return, a remnant of Jacob, to God the warrior. Even if your people Israel were like the sands of the sea, only a remnant will return. That's a very sobering, thing, and it is backed up by multiple witnesses throughout the Torah and the scriptures that, look at Jeremiah chapter 3, for example, and how he calls but a remnant. 1 per city, 2 per family. This is a remnant. So, since we're talking about this calling of the children of Israel and this remnant gathering, let's go over, the concept of how we make these building blocks work. And we're going to start in 1 Timothy chapter 3. And we're going to look at the role and the advice for leaders. 1 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 7. This is a true saying. If a man desire the office of an elder, he desires a good work. An elder must be blameless, the man of one woman, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach, not given to wine, no striker, not greedy, of filthy lucre, but patient, not a brawler, and not covetous, one that rules well his own house, having his children in subjection with all gravity. For if a man knows not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care the called out assembly of Elohim? Not a novice, let being lifted up with pride, he fall into condemnation of the devil. Moreover, he must have good report of them which are without, lest he fall into reproach and snare of the devil. So, of course, this deals with a lot of the issues we see when people come into the faith and they're super zealous. And they're like, I have all this knowledge. I'm going to teach everybody my newfound knowledge. And they're just like so overly zealous and to, their own hurt and to others' hurt too, because they're not tempered. They're not trained. Now, let's look over here at Titus 1, 5 through 9, which gives us some more instruction regarding leaders and elders. Titus chapter 1, verse 5, it says, For this cause left I you in Crete, that you should set in order the things that are wanting, and ordain elders in every city, as I had appointed you. If any be blameless, the man of one woman, having faithful children, not accused of riot or unruly, for an elder must be blameless, as the steward of Elohim, not self-willed, not soon angry, not given to wine, no striker, not given to filthy lucre, but a lover of hospitality, a lover of good men, sober, just, holy, temperate, holding fast the faithful word as he has been taught, that he may be able to by sound doctrine both to exhort and to convince the gainsayers. So a man prepared to combat the people with the hard questions. And finally, let's hop back over to 1 Timothy 3. And this is a breakdown of the role of deacons. And how I see these various roles, you have the leadership, you have the eldership, and then you have those in the community serving and being involved with the ministry. And that's, I believe, the role of these deacons. 1 Timothy 3, 8 through 13 says this, likewise must the deacons, now this is my understanding, deacons being the people involved in the ministry and involved in this like outreach aspect of it, must be grave, not double-tongued, not given to much wine, not greedy of filthy lucre, holding the mystery of the faith in a pure conscience, not people that are struggling with if they even believe, and let those also first be proved, then let them use the office of a deacon, being found blameless. Even so must their women be grave, not slanderers, sober, faithful in all things, and let the deacons be the men of one woman, ruling their children and their own house as well. So, basically all you polygynists out there, look, you're not going to be a leader because you have way too much to deal with back at home. So we're not even going to get into that. But there's a specific reason it's so important to have your household in order so that you can be a good example, that you can go and teach, that you can reprove and correct. So you're not a hypocrite when you come out there saying, hey, you need to work on this area and this area, giving wisdom, because you don't want the people you're giving your wisdom to going, yeah, whatever, you don't even do that, right? That would be terrible. All right. All right, so one last thing regarding this topic. Let's flip over to 1 Peter chapter 5. All right, chapter 5, verse 1 through 4. The elders which are among you I exhort, who am also an elder and a witness of the sufferings of Mashiach, and also a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed. Feed the flock of Elohim which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly. Don't feel like you're forced into a position of leadership. That's not the heart you need if you're going to be a leader. But willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of ready mind. And I believe when it says filthy lucre, it's referencing for gain, for money. Don't be a pastor to get a paycheck, I think is what it's explaining here. Neither as being Adanim over Elohim's heritage, being Lord over them, but being examples to the flock. You're not here to lord and be master everybody just because your name's pastor. You should be the servant of all. The great among you will be the servant of all. And when the chief shepherd shall appear, ye shall receive a crown of glory that fades not away. Likewise, ye younger, submit yourselves unto the elder, discipleship. Yea, all of you be subject to one another, and be clothed with humility. For Elohim resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. This is something we've actually talked about in our weekly Bible study this week that I've been really my mind's like, whoa, is the process of humility. Meekness is the very thing that tethers the Spirit of the Almighty to us. And that's a big deal. Because when we come with our cup already full, when we come with pride, He can't use us. All right, so now we're going to look at roles in the body. Romans chapter 12. Romans chapter 12, verse 4 through 8. For we have many members in one body. All members have not the same office. So we, being many, are one body in Mashiach, and everyone members one of another, having then gifts differing according to the grace that's given to us, whether prophecy, let us prophesy according to the proportion of faith, or ministry, let us wait on our ministering, or he that teaches on teaching, or he that exhorts on exhortation, he that gives, let him do it with simplicity, he that rules with diligence, he that shows mercy with cheerfulness. And so, what do we see here is that in the modern Christian theme of Christianity and the way that they conduct themselves, what do? They put all of the responsibilities on one guy. They make him the teacher, the counselor, the elder, the preacher, the teacher, and so, you see the what it leads to, which is dysfunction. Let let's look here at 1 Corinthians 12. 1 Corinthians 12 through 31, it says this, "For as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is Mashiach. For by one Ruach are we all baptized into one body, whether we be Yehudim or of the other nations, whether we be bond or free, and have been all made to drink into one Ruach, one Spirit. For the body is not one member, but many. If the foot shall say, because I am not the hand, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? And if the ear shall say, because I am not the eye, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? If the whole body were an eye, where would be the hearing, right? If the whole were hearing, where would be the smelling? But now has Elohim set the members, every one of them in the body, as it has pleased him. And if they were all one member, where were the body? But now they are many members, yet of one body. And the eye cannot say unto the hand, I have no need for you, nor the head to the feet, I have no need of you. Nay, much more those members of the body which seem to be more feeble are necessary. And those members of the body which we think be less honorable, upon these we bestow more abundant honor, and our uncomely parts have more abundant comeliness. For our comely parts have no need, but Elohim has tempered the body together, having given more abundant honor to that which lacked, that there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care one for another. And whether one member suffer, all the members suffer with it. Or one member be honored, all the members rejoice with it. Now ye are the body of Mashiach, and members in particular. And Elohim has set some in assembly, first apostles, secondary prophets, teachers, after the miracles, then gifts of healing, helps, governments, diversities of tongues. Are all apostles? Are all prophets? Are all teachers? Are all workers of miracles? Have all the gifts of healing? Do all speak in tongues? Do all interpret? But covet earnestly the best gifts, and yet show I unto you a more excellent way. And of course, what do we have? Paul eventually sums up is, you can have all of these gifts, you can have all of these things, but if you don't have love, it's worthless to you. All right, so let's one last thing here of roles in the body. Let's look at Ephesians 4. Ephesians 4, verse 11 through 16 says this, and he gave some apostles and some prophets and some evangelists and some pastors and teachers for the perfecting of the Kodashim, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Mashiach, till we all come in unity of the faith and the knowledge of the Son of Elohim, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of fullness of Mashiach, that we henceforth be no more children tossed to and fro, carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men, and cunning craftiness whereby they lie in wait to deceive. But speaking the truth in love, may grow up unto him all things which the head, even Mashiach. Who is the good shepherd? Who is the head of the body? Mashiach, right? All right, so now we're going to get into some treasure. And I don't got long left. I know you guys are hungry. Wait, what time is it? Treasure hunt time? Okay. All right, so over the years, after I came to a place of faith, I began working in media. I kind of fell into a role of running radio stations over all of Central Kentucky. From that position, it led me into working with a media company called Now You See TV, and there I started to interview many different scholars and teachers and researchers just because I was hungry for truth as well, and I was on the hunt for truth. And through that experience, I got to bump shoulders and interview several times a man named Brad Scott. Brad Scott is a very wise man who is now passed on, but he had some profound teaching and insight into the Word and into its role, helping us unpack what this is all about, right? And Brad Scott coined this term that I have used quite a few times because it sounds really smart, and the term is agrobio-linguistics. Can you guys say that? You want to say it with me? Agrobio-linguistics. All right. So what is this concept? It's that almost the whole of Scripture can be unpacked with these three core principles: agriculture, biology, and language, linguistics. Let's look at some examples. Luke chapter 8. Luke chapter 8 says, verse 11, and we see here, let's start verse 10. And he said unto you, it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of Elohim, but to others in parables, that seeing they might not see, and hearing they might not understand. Now the parable is this: the seed, agriculture, is the word of Elohim, linguistics. Oh, very interesting. All right, let's hop over here to another example, John 1:1. John 1:1. We got some more linguistics here. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and Elohim was the Word. All right, very interesting. All right, that's linguistics. Let's hop over here to Galatians 3. Galatians 3, verse 16. All right, so let's start a few verses back. We're going to start in 14. That the blessing of Abraham might come on the other nations through Yahushua HaMashiach, that we might receive the promise of the Ruach through faith. Brethren, I speak after the manner of men, though it be a man's covenant, yet if it be confirmed, no man disannuls or adds thereunto. Now, Abraham and his seed, agriculture and biology technically, were the promises made. He says not, and to seeds as of many, but as of one, and to your seed, which is Mashiach. Throughout history, the seed of true faith has been passed from generation to generation, and today we can receive the seed of true faith, and we can allow it to be watered. Yirah, the process of watering in Hebrew, is a root of the word Torah. So, did you know that Torah, or the word for instructions, comes from the root of the word to water something? Pretty profound. More agriculture and biology there. Not only this, but we have people throughout the scriptures are likened to trees. Did you know you're a tree person? Did you know that? Let's look over here at Psalm chapter 1. Psalm chapter 1, verses 3. Well, let's start at verse 1. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scornful, but his delight is in the Torah of Yahuwah, and in his Torah he meditates day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that brings forth its fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he does shall prosper. All right, let's hop over to Matthew chapter 7, verses 17 through 20. Matthew chapter 7, 17 through 20 says, let's start in 16. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Agriculture. Do men gather grapes of thorn or figs or thistles? Even so, every good tree brings forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree brings forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that brings not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Therefore, by their fruits ye shall know them. What is the significance? I am the vine, ye are the branches. You guys remember the Messiah talking about that? Well, the branches transmit something to bear fruit. And if the fruit that's being borne by those branches is not the seed that has been passed down from the ancients, the seed of truth and true faith, then it's bad fruit. So let's look here at one more, we've got two more tree people examples. Mark chapter 8. Mark chapter 8, 22 through 25 says this. And he came to Bethsaida, and they brought a blind man unto him, and besought him to touch him. And he took the blind man by the hand, and led him out of the town. And when he spit in his eyes, he put his hands upon him, and he asked him if he saw. And he looked up And what did he say? He says, I see men as trees walking. Oh, that's interesting. More agriculture. More parallels to this concept we're learning and building on. One last one regarding tree people. Isaiah 61. Isaiah 61 verses 3 says, to appoint them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, of the garment of praise for the ruach of heaviness, that they might be called oaks of righteousness, the planting of Yahuwah, that he might be glorified, that seed of truth passed down can grow into something much bigger. You see, from the very beginning in the garden, you had a battle of two trees. You had the battle of the temptation of the tree of knowledge, and you had the tree of life. That balancing act and the choice between the two. Now, let's look at this concept of agrobio-linguistics and how the nations were divided and how this leads into what it might be to be regathered. And we're at the end of this is my last page, so I'm getting there. I know. I smell some food. All right, Genesis chapter 10. Genesis chapter 10 says this. Chapter 10, verse 5, has almost an explicit example of this premise of agrobiology and linguistics. It says this, Genesis chapter 10, verse 5. By these were the isles of the other nations divided in their land, agriculture, everyone according to after his tongue, linguistics, after their families, biology. Agriculture, linguistics, biology is how, after their families and their nations, that the nations were divided, okay? Very interesting. And of course, what we see later in Genesis chapter 11 is the Tower of Babel, where the division of all the people happened according to their tongues, because they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. So they were all divided because of their tongues. Well, guess what? When it's restoration time, you're going to see a reverse of the Tower of Babel. Where do we see this? Zephaniah. Let's go there. Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 9. Let's read verse 8. Therefore wait upon me, says Yahuwah, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, reassemble, right? That I may assemble the kingdoms to pour upon them my indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. For then will I turn to the people a pure language, that they may call upon the name of Yahuwah to serve him with one consent. Why is there this division? Why is there these different denominations? Why are this confusion in today's world? Because we are of an impure tongue. We are of the nations of Babylon. Everybody is a man of 1,000 opinions, right? Every teacher, their own doctrine, because we can't come together and reason on what it actually is saying we should believe and do, because we're not of the pure tongue. So here, we just solved the first aspect of agrobio-linguistics when it comes to the remnant gathering. Language part of it, we need that pure tongue. That will eliminate this issue of disagreement that we see in today's world, the division of the body of Christ and all of that, right? If we had a way to come together and all right, well, let's see what it actually says, and we'll reason together so that we can become a multitude of counselors that all can empirically hash through the scriptures and realize what is the best understanding that we can then divvy out and teach to those around us. All right, so that's language. Let's look at something else very interesting. This has to do with biology. Go to Matthew chapter 12. Matthew chapter 12. We're going to talk a little bit about brotherhood. Matthew chapter 12, verse 50 says this. Now, this is the biology aspect of this three-legged dog. Well, for whosoever shall do the will of my Father which is in heaven, the same is my brother and sister and mother. That's a regathering truth, right? We're spread across the nations of many tongues, many families, but who can we decide is my brother and sister? Those who do the will of Yahushua's Father in heaven, our Father in heaven, the same is my brother, sister, and mother. Okay, so boom, we got two things. Linguistics taken care of, the pure tongue, and we got who our biology, who is my brother and sister. That's the biology aspect. All right, another one regarding the biology and the brotherhood, Psalm chapter 133. Let's go to Psalm 133. Psalm 133, verses 1 through 3 says this. It's the whole chapter. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in yachad, unity. It is like the precious ointment upon his head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, and went down the skirts of his garments, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descends upon the mountains of Zion. For there Yahuwah commanded the blessing, even life forevermore. How good and how pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together in unity. So you might recognize that those who do the will of your Father in heaven is your brother and sister, but if you can't figure a way to dwell together with them in unity, we'll go back to the drawing board and figure that part out, right? All right, so we got the two aspects taken care of. Linguistics, biology, who's your brother and sister. Now let's go to the last component of this, which is Ezekiel chapter 37, and this is tied to the land, to the agriculture, to the place. Ezekiel chapter 37, verses 21 through 22. All right, and it says, and say unto them, thus says Adonai Yahuwah, behold, I will take the children of Yasharel from among the heathen, the spread, the dispersion, from among the heathen wherever they be gone, and will gather them on every side and bring them into their own land. Agriculture, place. And I will make them as one nation in the land upon the mountains of Yasharel, and one king shall be to them all, and they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with other idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions, but I will save them out of their dwelling places wherein they have sinned, and I will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their Elohim. Our Father in heaven has always wanted us to get back to the garden. That's what Mount Zion is. That's where the gathering of the people happens. And it's pretty profound. Revelation 14, talks about this location, this place, right? Revelation 14, verse 1 says, this is when the gathering happens under the Lamb. And I looked, and lo, a Lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written in their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven as the voice of many waters, and the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of guitarists playing their kitara. And they sung, as it were, a new song before the throne and before the four living creatures and the elders. And no man could learn that song but the 144,000 that were redeemed from the earth. These which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins, these which follow the Lamb wherever he goes, these were redeemed from among men, being the firstfruits unto Elohim and to the Lamb. And one last thing about this locale, this land aspect, the garden we're returning to, Isaiah chapter 65. And this is my last verse, and then I'm going to read you one more little portion out of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and that'll be all. Isaiah chapter 65 says this, verse 22 through 23. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of a tree are the days of my people, and my elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands. They shall not labor in vain, nor bring forth for trouble, for they are the seed of the blessed of Yahuwah, and their offspring with them. And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. And so you see all of these elements of agriculture, biology, and linguistics tying into the things that, really are necessary for the eventual gathering of the remnant, and the things that we need to put important as we try ourselves as these building blocks of the body of Yahushua. We got to work out our kinks. And so let me read this passage in the Dead Sea Scrolls, last one, and then I'm going to read one more verse, and you'll see why I left this passage for the last, because it has some very interesting language, and this is the treasure that I found on this hunt. All right. So this is from Qumran Cave 1, and it's page 101 of, I think, the first book of the compilation. And this is the rule of all the congregation of Israel in the final days, when they gather in community to walk in ordinance with the regulations of the sons of Zadok, the priests, and the men of their covenant, who have turned away from the path of the nations. These are the men of his counsel who have kept his covenant in the midst of wickedness. And to atone for the earth, when they come, they shall assemble all those who come, including children and women, and they shall read into their ears all the precepts of the covenant, and shall instruct them in all their regulations, so that they do not stray in their errors. And this is the rule for all the armies of the congregation, for all native Israelites. From his youth, they shall educate him in the book of Haggai. Interesting. We'll come back to that. And according to his age, instruct him in the precepts of the covenant, and he will receive his instruction in their regulations. During 10 years, he will be counted among the children. At the age of, going back to our beginning of our study here, at the age of 20 years, he will transfer to those enrolled to enter the lot amongst his family and to join the holy community. He shall not approach to a woman to know her through carnal intercourse until he is fully 20 years old, when he knows good and evil. Then she shall be received to give witness against him about the regulations of the law and to take his place in the proclamation of the regulations. And on his completion, at the age of 25 years, he shall enter to take his place among the foundations of the holy congregation, to perform the service of the congregation. And at 30 years of age, he shall approach to arbitrate in disputes and judgments, and take his place among the chiefs of the thousands of Israel, the commanders of hundreds, commanders of 50s, commanders of 10s, the judges and the officials and their tribes and all their families, according to the decision of the sons of Aharon the priests, and every head of the clans of the congregation for whom the lot comes out to take his place in the duties, to go out and to come in before the congregation in accordance with his intelligence and the perfection of his behavior, shall gird his loins to remain steadfast, doing his allotted duty among his brothers. Depending on whether he has much or little, one will be more or less honored than his fellow. When the years of a man increase, they shall assign him a task in the service of the congregation matching his strength. No man who is a simpleton shall enter into the lot to hold office in the congregation of Israel for dispute or judgment. That makes sense. You got to have, your wits about you. Or perform a task of the congregation, or to go out to war to subdue the nations. He shall only write his family in the army register, and he shall do his service and the chores to the extent of his abilities. And let me see here. Okay, so and of 50s and 10s and the Levites, each one in the midst of his division of service. These are the men of renown, those summoned to the assembly, those gathered for the community council in Israel. In the presence of the sons of Zadok, the priests, no man defiled by any impurities of a man shall enter the assembly of these, and no one who is defiled by these should establish in his office among the congregation. Everyone who is defiled in his flesh, paralyzed in his feet, in his hands, lame, blind, deaf, or dumb, or defiled in his flesh, with a blemish visible to the eyes, or tottering old man, cannot keep upright in the midst of the assembly. These shall not enter to take their place among the men of renown, the congregation of the men of renown, for the angels of holiness are among the congregation. So what we see there, interesting language, but we see a parallel there with the mandates for the priesthood to be perfected, because these are the exemplifiers of Israel that go out before the nations. So if you send a bad example to be used as a tool, you're representing, something not on. But I digress. What was the treasure that I saw in that? What led me to seek out that passage in these fragments was specifically the age of accountability and the way that, they would enter in. You saw the parallel, right? That they were doing this. Whatever community or whoever left that fragment, we're doing this pattern of 20, 25, 30 to 50. And they mentioned at the start of that, they said, this is for the congregation of Israel in the final days. And it says, from his youth they shall educate him in the book of Haggai. Haggai? I don't know, when's the last time you read Haggai, right? What in the world? So this is my last scripture verse that I'm going to read, and then we're going to play a little video that it's just 3 minutes long. So let's flip over and read the first chapter of Haggai. What is it that they found so valuable that they were using in the book of Haggai to teach? And perhaps you guys can help me do some homework, and you can figure out what it is that's embedded in this that the community there found so valuable. And in searching this out, I found that this phrase, teaching from the book of Haggai, has been repeated and repeated, and something to it. There's a treasure there. Now let's look. Let's find some treasure. All right. Haggai chapter 1. In the second year of Darius, the king, in the 6th month, on the first day of the month, came the word of Yahuwah by Haggai the prophet unto Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, governor of Yehuda, and to Yahusha, the son of Yehitzedak, the high priest, saying, Thus speaks Yahuwah Sabaoth, saying, This people say, the time is not come, the time that Yahuwah's house should be built. Hold on, let's just pause. Do you guys remember what Yahusha said? What is the temple? What is the real temple? Who are the building blocks? Who are the stones? Who's the cornerstone? He is, Yahushua. Okay, all right, you're thinking. And then came the word of Yahuwah by Haggai the prophet, saying, Is it time for you, O ye, to dwell in the sealed houses, and this house lie waste? Now therefore, says Yahuwah Sebaot, consider your ways. Ye have sown much, and bring in little. Ye eat, but are not enough. Ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink. Ye clothe you, but there is none warm. And ye earns wages to put it into a bag with holes. If you really look at that verse, you'll see modern Christianity. Isn't that what's happening? They're doing all this service. They're doing all this stuff. They're taking in all this money. It's like, all right, where are the righteous? What was the fruit of your efforts? Verse 7, Thus says Yahuwah Sebaot, consider your ways. Isn't that what we've been talking about? Our ways, the ancient path, going back to those. Go up to the mountain. Go up to the mountain and bring wood and build the house. And I will take pleasure in it, and I will be glorified, says Yahuwah. Aren't you tree people? Is not the gathering of his people like the gathering of wood to be used to build as building blocks for his house, his body? Ye look for much, and lo, it came to little. And when you brought it home, I did blow upon it, says Yahuwah Sebaot, because of my house that is waste, and ye run every man unto his own house. Everybody has their own pet teacher. Everybody, has their own theories and doctrine and this and that. And I called for a drought upon the land and upon the mountains and upon the grain and upon the new wine and upon the oil and upon that which the ground brings forth and upon men and upon cattle and upon all the labor of hands. Then Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, and Yahusha, the son of Yehutzadak, the high priest, with all the remnant of the people, obeyed the voice of Yahuwah Elhayim and the words of Haggai the prophet, as Yahuwah Elhayim had sent him. And the people did fear Yahuwah. Then spoke Haggai, Yahuwah's messenger, in Yahuwah's message unto the people, saying, I am with you, says Yahuwah. And Yahuwah stirred up the Ruach of Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, governor of Yehuda, and the Ruach of Yahusha, the son of Yehutzadak, the high priest, and the Ruach of all the remnant of the people, and they came and did work in the house of Yahuwah Sebaot, their Elohim. And this happened in the 24th day of the 6th month, in the 2nd year of Darius the king. What were they building? Was it merely just a physical place? What are we building today? I mean, you could probably ask quite a few Christian pastors, what are you building? Well, we got a gymnasium we're going to add on, and there's a recreational center. We do need to expand the children's ministry space. What are they building? All right. So what is it? What is the treasure that we're discovering here? I find something very beautiful in the name of one of these men who were Ruach stirred. Do you guys know what Zerubbabel means? Descendant of Babel. A descendant of Babel. Don't we live in Babylon now? Don't we live in... Whoa. Don't we live in the nations now? Man, we are the sons and daughters of Babylon. Where is the house of Yah today? Where are the wise counselors and elders? Where are the wise-hearted among us that have gathered together to actually do something and not just wait, but to step out in their faith and gather the wood to build a body that's strong, to build a body that's actually going to leave an impact? Where? So, what was the treasure, right? The treasure is that there's an opportunity to build, and maybe one day, we can be that remnant that is brought from the far-off nations to Mount Zion, to learn the word, to water our seed of faith, to grow in his garden. So, because I realized this parallel with the building of the tabernacle, okay, what other examples do we have in the scripture of when that took place? There were two men that came out of Egypt with Moshe, Oholiab and, I spaced on it, Bezalel. Oholiab and Bezalel, right? And these guys were the wise men that built the instruments of the tabernacle. They formed the house of the Almighty, the Bet HaMikdash. I'm terrible at Hebrew. So because I see a profound parallel with today and our call today as people seeking after the truth, seeking after the unity and righteousness, and I see that there is probably a lot more to this building of the tabernacle than meets the eye, I want to finish off with this beautiful song. And when you hear this beautiful little song about Oholiab and Bezalel, maybe you can kind of see some of the parallel I see with today and what our responsibility is to not be people sitting on our hands. Just like it says, is now the time to build the house? Is it really the time now? Do we really need to do this now? I say, yeah. Let's hit it.
And the bodies I gave you. Wise-hearted men, wise-hearted women, bring what you can, silver and linen, wool of crimson and of blue, and the bodies I gave you. Build me a tent that I can dwell in, incense and oil and precious stones. And when you walk, I'll walk beside you, and where you live will be my home. Betzalel, guide them well, build me a place to dwell, make me a lamp with 7 branches from a single piece of gold, 7 arms like almond blossoms, from their petals fire will glow. Make me an altar of acacia, on the corners place 4 rings. Make me a pair of golden angels to guard my words beneath their wings. Oh, Holia, fill them with love. Make me